Zulu Papa 5, Whiskey Bravo Mike from Mike's Bravo Alpha Alpha.
It's a whole different quality.
It totally depends on temperature and how you move.
We got a dog now. Let's just overkill him. Pretty much over here now, the noise level. But excellent copy.
So today we're going to look at setting up a Pi node. What is a Pi node? It's a small Raspberry Pi based board. That's a Pi Zero underneath. And on the top is a Raspberry Pi hotspot. This particular one's known as an MMDVM. It's multi-mode digital voice radio. And what this does is it allows you to transmit and receive from a transceiver, a VHF or UHF transceiver, and it will decode digital audio from DMR, D-Star, Cold Fusion, various modes. There's about half a dozen of them that it will decode, and it'll also work in multiple modes. So if you have multiple radios, it provides a great way of connecting to the internet. And that's the secondary thing that it does, in this case via Wi-Fi. It's connecting to the internet, and it's connecting to Brandmeister servers, or you can configure it for other servers. But Brandmeister seems to be the norm. It just allows you to access hundreds and hundreds of talk groups, all of which are themed either regionally or for different topics. And there are a number of reasons why you might need it. One is if you don't have access to a repeater that's wired into the Brandmeister network. I'm very fortunate where I live that two of my local repeaters are wired into Brandmeister, one via analog mode and one via digital modes. But even then there are times when I want to try and connect locally. If you have poor reception in your house, as I do, a node can be very useful. You can place the node anywhere where you've got a good Wi-Fi signal and you can just transmit to it. The next level from that really is to run it from batteries and take it with you when you go mobile. So you may have it operating in the car, either from the car power supply or a lead acid battery. And you would use your mobile phone as an internet hotspot in that case. Or you may wish to use it at a workplace or a friend's house. You can literally just pick this up, and so long as you set the Wi-Fi SSID up and password, you can use it pretty much anyway. So it's quite a versatile device. It also allows you to experiment with other radio modes. Perhaps you borrow a fusion receiver and you want to test that mode out. All you have to do is set that mode up on here with your radio ID and a few parameters, and it'll work. So you may decide, for instance, to try out a Yaesu Fusion digital radio before you purchase it. Or you may already possess multiple radios and you want a central way to connect them. So I think this is absolutely marvellous. It took me quite a while to appreciate just how useful these things are. It does work through one time slot, which is time slot 2, but it will access all the Brandmeister talk groups the way I've set it up. It may be possible to set it up for other networks as well. I haven't covered that because Brandmeister does everything I need. So we're going to have a look at setting this up today, and you'll be able to hear it operating and how good the audio quality is, because it's very impressive. So let's get on with it. So the first thing we need to do really is to download the software, and my preference is to go for the most recent version, which is the 21st of June, which is v4.1.5. 21st of June, and I'll click that, and that is now downloading in the background. Obviously you can do it with other boards like the Odroid, the Orange Pi, the Nano Pi, and it's a really versatile program, and it's been recompiled specifically for those, so that's absolutely brilliant. So that'll just take a few seconds to download, and then we can start configuring it and making our SD card. Now I've already plugged, so I have my SD card in an adapter. That drive's been recognised. You can't see it because of the camera, but yeah, that's been recognised. And our software is nearly downloaded. So the next thing I need to do is to get the Pi imager going. Now, I haven't got the Pi imager. Wow, let's go and get the Pi imager then. Windows. I probably got it in Linux and that's why I get confused. Our image is now open, so we need to install that. Okay, so that'll run the imager software. Choose OS. And we need to go all the way to the bottom and do use custom. And there's our imager, our image of PI-Start. And there's our image of PI-Start. So we load that up. Where's it gone? Choose the storage device we want to write it to. That's my 16 gig card, SD card. You can use as little as 4 gigabytes for this, but 16 gig ones are so cheap, you may as well just buy a handful of them like I do. Okay. Now, ignore the Windows thing. That's because there's a non-FAT32 partition on there. So we can now remove the SD card from the reader, close that. And then we can put it in our Raspberry Pi, and hopefully I can get some screen capture and we can see what's going on. Okay, so I'm booting onto the card that we've just made. So this will take a little longer to boot than normal, but we'll be able to see some activity, hopefully. The first thing it does is expand its partitions. And there we go, that's running its boot sequence. And we only need to perform an initial part of this setup from here. And the joy is it'll tell us what the IP address is. Now don't worry about all those fails. The reason that it's failed to start those services is we haven't selected any of them. We will be able to SSH into this if we need to make changes to the card. The important thing to remember if you SSH in is the file system is read-only. Every single file is read-only. And there's a command you can type in to change it, which is basically RPI-RW. And that will change it for that session only to read writable. So if you need to configure Wi-Fi manually, that may be an issue. Okay, so that's our PI-Start welcome screen. So all we need to do now is log in as Pi-Start. Okay, so it's Pi-Start and the default password is Raspberry. Obviously, I strongly recommend that you change this. So on this screen, which I can't point at, and you can see it gives an IP address at the top. Now, that will work for most people, but I have a rather strange network in this house and it doesn't really like it. So you shouldn't have this issue, but if you do, I'm going to show you how to sort it out. So we are logged in. So the first thing we can do is to go ifconfig, which is roughly equivalent to the ipconfig command. Also helps if you type it properly. This keyboard, you really have to press the keys hard. So there we go. And at the bottom we can see our IP address is 192.168.51. So what we need to do is to do cd/etc sudo nano, which is the editor, and put a space in. And we need to scroll down to the very bottom here. We need to remove these hashes. Now you need to go to your Windows computer and put in ipconfig /all, and this will tell you what your IP address is. But for my network, it has to be, mine's 192.168.178.100. Yours may well be different, so we can press Control X to exit, and this isn't going to work because I've left the file system in read-only mode. So, Control Exit no. So we need to do RPI-RW. Correct. And then we can go into the file again, go down to the bottom. Just be careful when you're doing this that you don't muck it up, because it takes you quite a while to work out what is wrong. So 178 100 I want, because I know that IP is free. Control X, yes, and return. Then we can reboot. And that's not the right command. It's this awful keyboard. I know I'm making excuses, but you really have to slam each key down to get them to work. Okay, that's worked now. I need to swap over to a web browser. Okay, so now we've got change the IP address and PI. We can now go to the actual interface. Here's the test. You should also be able to get to it through PI-Start.local as well, and that's working, that's fine. So this is the initial screen you get, and it's going to redirect in 10 seconds. But all it means is that it doesn't know which mode it's supposed to work into. So now we need to log into the interface and make some settings up. So PI-Start, then Raspberry again, and we're in. So I'll put some detailed notes about all of these settings on my blog. So the host name is PI-Start. That would have to be changed in the software, but we can do an awful lot with this. There's the kernel we're running, that's what we're running it on, and I doubt very much that Sony recall making the Pi 3 Model B 1GB, but who knows. Got CPU temperature. That's a little bit calmer than it was. It's about 5 degrees lower, which is good. So we go through the settings nice and easy. Controller software. We want MMDVM host. If you know what you're doing with D-Start, then you can set it up for that. I don't, so let's move on from that. The host name. If we had more than one, we may need to change the host names to PI-Start 1, PI-Start 2, or call it anything you like. It doesn't matter. The call sign should be my own call sign. Don't nick my call sign. And the frequency I've chosen to use is 434,200. Now you should check what's available in your area. The other thing we need to do is our latitude and longitude. And a quick way of doing this is to go to qlz.com if you're registered with them. You can do it on Google Maps as well. You can just hover the mouse over your house and then right click and it will tell you. I like to do it this way. So latitude, longitude. You don't have to do this, of course. It's fairly polite to let people find where it's located. And I'm at IO92LV. So it's Nottingham IO92LV. As you can see, I've done this before. But this is set up from scratch. Now, this URL by default goes to, I don't know what it goes to. Let's try it. Okay, that's probably one of the guys who worked on it. No worries. But what I am going to do is take that URL. Now if people want to find me, they can do. I will have APRS on. That is a personal choice if you wish to use APRS relaying. Now the important thing to know, there's two important things to know. The first one is I need to apply those changes, and each time it'll take a few seconds to restart all the relevant services on the Pi. It doesn't reboot, it just restarts all the service that you've changed. And this is normally where the CPU temperature starts creeping up, but because we've fitted heatsinks it should be okay. I think a Pi Zero won't have a problem. Now you'll see this morning a few times about the modem selection has been updated. I also need to apply the changes on the top one just to be sure that they are on board. Okay, so those changes are applied. We get the warning again. Now the next part is our MMDVM host configuration. So this is configuring for the board that we've got. The first thing that we need to do is select a mode. All these modes are available. The only one I know is DMR. But we can leave these as they are. So the hang time is 20 seconds. It just means it's going to remain in that mode for 20 seconds. And it's going to remain connected to that node, to the relay, the server on the internet for DMR for 20 seconds after a transmission ceases. So when you cease transmission, obviously you want to wait about 4 seconds to listen if anybody else wants to come on board, and to give the node chance to switch modes if that's necessary. If you have multiple modes enabled, it will cycle through them. I have heard people say you shouldn't engage more than 2 modes simultaneously. That's something you may want to experiment with. Obviously if it causes problems you would then come down. The display, I haven't got a display attached at the moment. We're going to come back to that later. Mine's an OLED Type 6, but you can go through those settings. You'll have to find out what's the right setting. Another popular one is the Nexion display, which is quite a large one. But, you know, I'll come back to those, but I need to apply those changes again. Okay, we're almost there. Okay, I don't want to put a GPS dongle on it to tell it something. If you were using this remotely, if you were using your Pi node mobile, that's something I'll cover in the benefits of using a node. You could be using it in the car. You may be using it at a work location. I've heard of people doing that, and it's one of the great uses for a Pi node is that you can make them portable. They can run off batteries. If you were doing that, then you may want to fit a GPS dongle. Mine's going to be static for now. They're so cheap I'll probably buy another one. These things cost around £80 to £100 on eBay and more on Amazon to buy ready assembled. But you can actually buy the board. I think I paid less than £25 for it to put on an existing Raspberry Pi, and I then bought a case and a display and still had change out of 40 quid or something. The case and the LED display were £10 together, and I bought them from Pi Hut. Other cases are available. They may suit your needs better. But 6 quid for a case and £3 odd for a display. I thought I'll try it, or maybe it was the other way around, but it's not expensive. Now then, you can elect to have your dashboard accessible by the general public. I'm going to select public, and the rest I'm going to leave just as they are. I don't want people remoting into my Pi. You will need to set up some port forwarding on your router. And I had a conflict between the IP address of the router and this. But no matter, it's not too hard to set up. But you may need to refer to the instructions for your router because everyone's different. Okay, we're almost there. The next thing, I need to configure the Wi-Fi. So currently it's down because we haven't set it up. Let's configure the Wi-Fi. I'm not in Japan. Minor annoyance of this is that it keeps going back. So I'll scan for networks. See what happens. There we go. And the one I want is the TP link. All I have to do is put my password in there. Save and connect. Give it a few seconds to connect. It may or may not connect because of the layout of this house. I think last time I had to reset the Wi-Fi adapter. So we'll click that. It's another few seconds and it still says it's down. Once it's connected, you can then add a second one. If you know it manually, you can do it there. And that's working. Okey-doke. So if I go to configure Wi-Fi again, I can now go scan networks. Now the other network's quite a distance from me, so it may not pick it up. That's it. Starlink satellite. I did have two networks with the same with the same SSID, and it caused all sorts of problems. Don't do that. So there you go. You could add more if you wanted. We'll say save and connect. I don't think it'll realistically do it, but we'll give it a chance. We're still connected via Ethernet. The problem being, of course, if it fails to connect to the Wi-Fi, you can't connect to it. So it's a catch-22, but you could probably reboot it once you've got all the settings set and test it. There we go. That's on TP-Link. That'll do me. That's the strongest one. You can make it an access point as well. I'm not going to do that. So that is it. So now we should be able to connect to our node, and because we've refreshed a few times, it's heated up. So let's have a look at what else is on here. So the most interesting thing of them all, for most people, is the dashboard. Okay, now there's a couple of things we haven't done clearly because they're set in red. Okay, so I actually made a mistake with the DMR settings. I assumed the DMR master server needed to be set to the UK. I checked the previous configuration that I'd tested. We need to set it to DMR gateway and save it. This one then opened up a second level of settings. So now we notice that the Brandmeister master network is now opened up, and now we can set the UK one. That is what I didn't do. We don't need to set a channel for this. We do need to enable the Brandmeister network configuration. So we then apply the changes, just boot my radio up, give it time to apply the changes, restart all the services, and we should start hearing some activity soon. I'm going to select the gateway on my radio and then select the dashboard. We've got two greens. All I need to do now is to log into the network by just pressing push to talk very briefly. Bingo! It's got my wrong call sign. I had some issues with the Brandmeister login. That is easily changed. We should start hearing activity on 91. It may not work because my call sign is incorrect, so I'm going to go to Brandmeister and fix that. Okay, so we now got our DMR settings correct. We don't need DMR plus. And as you can hear, there is activity now. And there it is. I need a gap now to press the push to talk and it will log me in. There we go. It's now logged me in with the correct call sign because I relogged into my Brandmeister account with the correct call sign. So time for a little contact. Mike 0, Romeo, Lima Foxtrot, radio check.
Yeah, thanks, David, for that.
And there we have it. We have a perfect radio check, and we can start using our node the way it was intended. Now, I have tested this configuration, and I'm able to access it from all 3 floors of my house and a few yards down the road. My house is atrocious, so I'm going to find a way to fit the antenna outdoors, and then hopefully I'll be able to pick it up even further. But it's a fantastic product. So 73s, I hope you build a node, I hope you have lots of fun with it, and I hope you get lots of good QSOs through it. So 73s for now, talk to you soon.
Whoa, 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 yeah, we are playing in the place to be, yeah, 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 yeah.